Robert Kiyosaki is either a genius or a liar. There is no middle ground. For 20 years, this purple book has been the Bible for every finance bro on the internet. They tell you that savers are losers. They scream that your house is a liability. And they promise that if you just mind your own business and use debt like a rich person, you can escape the rat race forever. But here's the problem. I am still in the rat race. And statistically, so are you. We read the quotes on Instagram, we nod our heads, and then we go back to our 9 to 5 jobs, pay our taxes, and save what little is left. We aren't doing what the rich dad does. We are doing what the poor dad does, even though we know better. So, I decided to stop reading and start doing. I wanted to know if this advice actually works in 2026, or if it's just outdated boomer advice that sounds good but fails in the real world. For the last 30 days, I lived by a strict set of rules. I tried every major hack in Rich Dad Poor Dad. I tried to buy assets with zero money. I tried to pay myself first, even when I was broke. I even tried to use good debt without ruining my credit score. I started this experiment thinking I would make a quick $1,000. I was wrong. What happened on day 17 almost made me quit the entire channel. But what happened on day 30? Well, that changes everything. This is the chaotic, painful, and surprisingly profitable reality of living like a rich dad for 30 days. To understand the pain I am about to put myself through, you have to understand the first and most dangerous rule of the book, the separation of assets and liabilities. Most of us think we know what an asset is. My car? Asset. My house? Asset. My expensive collection of vintage sneakers? Definitely an asset. Kiyosaki says, "You are an idiot." According to the rich dad, an asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. If you stop working today, your assets feed you. Your liabilities eat you. So for day 1 through day 5, my mission was simple: audit my life and acquire one true asset. I looked at my bank statement. It was a graveyard of liabilities. Netflix subscription? Liability. Car payment? Massive liability. The coffee I bought this morning? Liability. I realized I didn't own a single thing that paid me. I just owned things that build me. The challenge was to buy an asset. But there was a catch. I couldn't use my savings. The book says you need to use your brain, not just your wallet. I went online. I looked at dividend stocks. To make enough money to buy a single pizza once a month, I would need to invest like $10,000. I don't have $10,000 lying around. Strike one. I looked at real estate. Kiyosaki loves real estate. He says, buy a rental property with other people's money. I called a bank. I asked them if they would give me a loan for a rental property with zero down payment because a purple book told me it was a good idea. The loan officer actually laughed at me. Not a polite chuckle. A full laugh. Strike two. I was 3 days in, and I had accomplished nothing except hurting my own feelings. This is where most people quit. The advice sounds great in theory. Just buy assets. But in practice, assets are expensive, and I am not rich. Then I reread chapter 3, Mind Your Own Business. Kiyosaki says the rich focus on their asset column, while the poor focus on their income statement. I needed to build something. I looked around my apartment. If I couldn't buy an asset, I had to find one. I realized I was sitting on a pile of junk that I thought had value. Old electronics, clothes I don't wear, furniture I don't like. I made a rule. I would liquidate my poor dad lifestyle to fund my rich dad asset. I spent day 4 and 5 listing everything on eBay and Facebook Marketplace. This isn't passive income yet. This is active hustling. But the goal was to create a pot of cash that I could turn into a money printing machine. By the end of day 5, I had sold an old gaming console, a jacket, and a broken laptop. Total profit, $420. Now, a poor dad would take that $420 and go out for a nice dinner or buy a new pair of shoes. I wanted to. I really wanted to. But the rich dad rule is strict. Income must go into assets. I took that $420 and I opened a high-yield dividend portfolio. It's not sexy. It's not a skyscraper. But for the first time in my life, I had a separate account that existed solely to pay me. It generated about 3 cents a day. It felt pathetic. I felt like I was wasting my time. But then I remembered the math. If I keep feeding this column, the 3 cents becomes $3, then 30, then 300. The hardest part wasn't the money. It was the discipline not to spend it. But the real pain started on day 8, when I tried the hack that everyone hates. Pay yourself first. This is the most controversial rule in the book. Kiyosaki says that when you get your paycheck, you should pay your asset column before you pay your rent, your taxes, or your bills. He says that if you pay your bills first, you will save whatever is left over, which is usually nothing. But if you pay yourself first, you will feel the pressure of being short on money, and that pressure will force you to hustle harder to pay the bills. He calls it financial pressure. I call it panic attack. On day 10, my YouTube check hit my account. Usually, I pay my credit card, set aside rent, and buy groceries. This time, I took 30% of the check immediately before paying a single bill and transferred it to my investment account. I stared at my checking account. The number was low, dangerously low. I had rent due in 5 days, and I was short. Kiyosaki says, the fear of not having enough money should motivate you to think. I was thinking, all right. I was thinking about how much I hate Robert Kiyosaki. I was short $200 for rent. I couldn't touch the savings. That's the rule. I had to create the money. The poor dad in me wanted to borrow it or put it on a credit card. The rich dad forced me to find a solution. I had 48 hours to find $200. I couldn't sell more junk. I was out of junk. I had to sell a skill. I went to a freelance site. I looked for gigs. Nothing. I went to my neighbors. I saw a guy with a messy yard. I knocked on his door. I offered to clean his entire garage and mow the lawn for $100. He said yes. I did it again for the neighbor across the street. It took me 10 hours of sweating in the sun. It was brutal. I hated every second of it. But I made the $200. I paid my rent. And here is the crazy part. I still had that initial 30% sitting in my investment account. If I had paid my rent first, I never would have mowed those lawns. I would have sat on the couch watching TV. That money in the investment account wouldn't exist. Pay yourself first works, but it is not a fun magic trick. It is a torture device that forces you to be productive. It converts your anxiety into cash flow. By day 15, I was exhausted. I was hustling, I was saving, I was reading. But I wasn't rich. I was just a tired guy with a slightly bigger stock portfolio. This brings us to day 17. The day I hit the wall. The thumbnail of this video says, waste of time. And on day 17, the answer was yes. I was reading the chapter on work to learn, don't work for money. Kiyosaki says that job security is a myth and that you should jump from job to job to learn skills, sales, accounting, marketing. I looked at my analytics. I looked at the pennies trickling in from my dividends. I felt like I was playing a game I couldn't win. The rich get rich because they have millions to play with. When you have $500, investing feels like a joke. A 10% return on $500 is $50. Who cares? I closed the book. I was ready to quit the experiment. I told myself, this is for people who already have money. But then I saw a quote in the book that I had skipped over. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. I realized I was still thinking like a poor person. I was trying to work to build the asset column. I was mowing lawns. I was selling video games. I was trading my time for money to buy assets. I needed to detach my time from the money. I needed to try the most dangerous hack in the book, using other people's money, OPM. Now, disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor. Do not go into debt because a cartoon told you to. This is where things get risky. Rich people love debt. Poor people fear debt. Poor debt is a credit card with 25% interest used to buy a TV. Good debt is a loan with 5% interest used to buy an asset that pays you 10%. You keep the spread. I didn't have the credit for a house, but I wondered, could I do this on a micro scale? I found a deal on a bulk lot of returned merchandise from Amazon. You know those pallets of returned electronics? It cost $500. I didn't have the $500 cash available. It was locked in my Pay Yourself First account. So, I used a credit card. This terrified me. I just put $500 of debt on a card to buy a mystery box of returned vacuum cleaners and blenders. If I couldn't sell them, I would be stuck with the debt and the interest. I would be poorer than when I started. I got the pallet. It was mostly junk. Broken cables, shattered screens. My heart sank. I thought I had just lit $500 on fire. But at the bottom of the box, there were 3 high-end espresso machines. They looked brand new. The boxes were just damaged. I cleaned them up. I took professional photos. I listed them. This is the sales skill Kiyosaki talks about. He says, the ability to sell is the #1 skill in business. I didn't just post them, I marketed them. Open box special. Never used. It took 4 days. Day 21, day 22, day 23. The credit card bill date was getting closer. The financial pressure was back. On day 24, the first one sold for $250. On day 25, the second and third sold for $220 each. Total revenue, $690. Cost of debt, $500, plus maybe $5 in interest if I held it, but I paid it off immediately. Net profit, $185. Now, $185 isn't $1 million. But wait, look at the mechanics. I used $0 of my own money. I used the bank's money to buy the asset, the pallet. I sold the asset to pay back the bank. I kept the $185 profit. That $185 was created out of thin air using debt and effort. It was an infinite return on my own capital because I used no capital. This was the click moment. This is what the rich dad means. It's not about having money. It's about controlling money. The bank has all the money you need. You just need a deal that makes sense. For the final week, day 25 to day 30, I went all in. I stopped looking for jobs and started looking for deals. I looked for underpriced items I could flip. I looked for stocks that were beaten down unfairly. I looked at my YouTube channel differently, not as a place to work, but as a digital asset library. I optimized my old videos, assets, to get more views, cash flow. I spent 3 hours updating thumbnails on videos I made a year ago. The next day, those old videos made an extra $15. That's passive income. That's an asset working for me. So day 30 arrived. The final tally. I sat down with my spreadsheet to answer the question. Was this a waste of time? Let's look at the numbers. Starting net worth change, $0. Ending result. Asterisk asset column. I have $900 in a dividend portfolio from the garage sales and the pay yourself first squeezes. Asterisk cash flow. That portfolio pays me roughly $4 a month. Okay, don't laugh. Asterisk the flip. I made $185 using OPM. Asterisk the mindset. And this is the real asset. I looked at my bank account. It was actually lower than usual. Why? Because all my cash was locked up in investments. I felt broke, but I was technically richer than ever. The rich dad philosophy is uncomfortable. It makes you feel poor because you are constantly deploying your soldiers, your dollars, to go fight for you, instead of letting them sit comfortably in a savings account. But here is the truth I discovered. The scam isn't the book. The scam is the way we are taught to think about money. We are taught that the goal is to have a big pile of cash. The rich dad teaches that the goal is to have a big stream of cash flow. In 30 days, I didn't escape the rat race. I'm still running in the wheel. But for the first time, I can see the exit. I learned that paying yourself first is painful, but it works. It forces you to be creative. I learned that assets don't have to be skyscrapers. They can be a pallet of returns or a YouTube video. And I learned that you don't need money to make money. You need courage to handle the pressure. Is Rich Dad, Poor Dad a perfect book? No. It's repetitive, it's vague, and some of the real estate advice is dangerous in 2026. But is it a waste of time? Absolutely not. Because for 30 days, I stopped acting like a victim of the economy and started acting like a participant in it. The question isn't whether the hacks work. The question is, can you handle the stress of using them? If you want to see exactly how I picked those dividend stocks in my new asset column, you need to watch this video right here. I break down the math of how to turn $420 into a lifetime income stream. Click it, and I'll see you there.